Хамгийн сонирхолтой нь Монгол улс бол маш хурдцтай хувьсаа өөрчлөгддөг. Дасан зохицох чадвартай гэдгээрээ тун онцлог. Хөгжил хаасаагүй харагдаж байна. Бидний эргэн тойронд олон шинэ барилгууд сүндэрлэж Улаанбаатар хот тэлсээр байна. Үүнээс бид ялангуяа дизайн болон архитектурын салбарт Монгол улсад олон боломж байгааг маш сайн харж байна. Миний бодлоор Монгол улс Оросын албан ёсны нөлөөнөөс салж өөрийн замлаар хөгжиж байгаа. Монголчууд их орондоо эзэн болж байна. Танай улс бол харьцангуй залуу улс. Шинэ үеийнхэн гарч ирж байгаа. Монгол хэл, төрх, соёлыг тодорхойлох асар их хэмжээний боломж байгаа гэж би харж байна.
Бид нэр Итали улсад яг яаж энэ Италийн дизайн approach-ыг ашиглаж хэрэгэлдэг вэ гэдгийг ер нь бол хүмүүст хүрэхийг зорьсон байгаа. Яаж юм Итали дизайн өөр байдаг юм бэ? Яагаад ихэд бүхэн ингэж илүү авч явж танигддаг юм бэ гэдгийг харуулахыг зорьсон.
Монгол улсад энэ салбарыг хөгжүүлэх асар их боломж байгаа гэж бодож байна. Энд таатай зах зээл байна. Монголын бизнес эрхлэгчид олон төрлийн брэндүүд нэвтрүүлж, өргөжих сонирхол байгааг би ажигласан. Мөн бусад хүмүүсийн хэрэгцээнд нийцүүлэх, бусдын арга барил нээлттэй байх зэрэг эерэг хандлага ажиглагдсан. Тэгэхээр одоо бол хөгжлийн тун тохиромжтой цаг гэж би хэлнэ.
Та бүхэнд орой мэндийг хүргэж байна. За аналог лабас зохион байгуулж байгаа Italian Design Poetics арга хэмжээнд тавтай борил өнөөдөр нэгэн гүчиг эзэж мартахгүй хамтдаа маш гоё мэдлэг боловсрал мэдээлэлээр дүүрэн өнгөрүүлэх болно. За бид бүгдийн урилгыг хүлээн авч хүрсэн Томас Лемон таньж баярлалаа илэрхийлье. За мөн Серж Манино бүгд хамтдаа өвтгөл үзүүлье. Баярлалаа. Энэ цаг мөчиг тийс яадаг үлээж байгаа гэдэгт итгэлтэй байна.
I'd go sail beyond the stars, it's near beyond the moon.
I vividly remember that I had a very imaginative mind. Because I always retold stories of any story. We sketch all the stories in my own ending. But I never thought of it as I never seen it, thought of it as a design, an art, or anything. However, somehow I started my journey into career into design after high school, and I flew to Milan, and I ended up with these amazing people, Sergio Manino and Thomas Lemon, and I'm very happy that they're here today with me. Thank you. That's the time when I first understood that design is poetic. Design is not only about problem solving, solution finding, or very rational. It was so poetic.
За дараагийн хүндэт зочныг танилцуулъя. Дараагийн болох хамтрагч Флоренст бэлтгэгдсэн Итали гаралтай архитектурч за тавилгын дизайнер Сержио Маниноны баг хамтарлаа Нью-Йоркийн Бруклинээс өдөртөг авч явдаг юм байна. Сержио Маниноны алдарт брэндүүд одоо маш их дуртагтайгаар ажиллаж байсан юм байна. Бүгд хамтаа өвтөг авцгаа өвтөг үзүүлсэн юм байна. Одон гоё чухалаас гэж хэлж байгаа шүү.
First of all, before I start, I just want to say thank you. This is an amazing opportunity. It's humbling to look out at a crowd of so many amazing people who seem to be actually interested in something we might have to say.
I hope so.
But it wasn't something I was raised with. It wasn't something that I had deep inside of me. Sergio and I have a really interesting exchange because I came to Italy just about the same time Sergio went to New York City. And how we saw things was from completely different perspectives. I was trained as a rationalist or the pragmatist, and Sergio, he'll tell you his story, but it was completely different. And when I came to Italy, I was lucky enough to study at a school called Domus Academy. I'm actually from North Dakota, which is one of the smallest areas of the And, excuse me. And I was lucky enough to study at Domus Academy, did my master's there. And the first day of school, the docent, who was an incredibly famous Italian designer named Andrea Baranzi, said something in the speech that just touched me deeply. He said, "The goal of Domus Academy is to teach every student to discover their personal design poetics." I didn't even know what the hell that meant. And I wrote it down on the front of my notebook and I thought, there's a reason I'm here and there's something for me to learn. And I honestly looked at it every day and slowly I grew into understanding this Italian way of thinking and this Italian way of being. And I've been there for 20-some years. And that love affair has not ended yet. And at this point, I'd love to hand it over to my friend Sergio Menino, my partner from New York City, so he can take you on the Italian journey to New York.
As Thomas mentioned, we have pretty much the same experience, but the opposite. So I was born in Italy, I had raised in Italy, and I studied architecture in Florence. And when I finished my studies, I moved to New York. We always joke because I moved to New York 23 years ago when he moved to Italy. So we always joke that we exchanged at the airport and we wished each other good luck. But the first thing that I noticed working in the United States or in New York was that every time someone talked about design, they talked about problem solving. Design is, first of all, solving a problem. And in all my years in Italy, I had never heard this definition once. Not a single one of my teachers ever mentioned any of that. And so I was very perplexed because the way I think and the way I was raised and taught in university is that yes, we do solve problems, but those are the basic, that's the foundation of what we do. Design starts after that. Every profession we can think of solves a problem. A driver solves a problem. A person that, handles the microphone solves a problem. And someone that serves the drinks solves a problem. You can think of any possible profession. Maybe artists, but I don't know if I would define that as a profession. We all solve problems. So the issue is really, so where does design start? I feel that as designers should have, or hopefully we have this power to infuse that type of magic into an object. So that is where the problem ends and the magic begins. Let's say the first Mac portable computer. So these young kids would carry it around, take it to the beach, take it to the mountains, any way they wanted to write their poems. The idea was because at the time Olivetti was struggling to produce typewriters at a cheaper price because the market had become much bigger and typewriters were a lot cheaper. And so Sotsas thought, why don't we make this object in plastic rather than aluminum? And why don't we remove all the things that are not necessary for a typewriter? So the lower cases, for instance, or the little sound, the ding at the end of the line. Many of you are probably too young to remember this. But then Olivetti came in and said, no, we can't do this. We are Olivetti. We need to make a luxury product, basically. So they brought everything back, and the object was not a commercial success. But at the same time, it had become iconic. It was one of the first time that an object like this had become a fashion object. And so again, design is looking into what's going on in society, it's looking at fashion, and it's looking to connect with people deeply. No one had ever seen a red typewriter before. So how you can imagine having that object or carrying that object with you, you were, I'm sure you were super cool with it. And that is the whole idea of the Italian design. So how you connect, you don't make an object just because it works. Yes, it has to work, but that is not enough. How it connects with your heart. Society and family. There is a picture here of a formal dinner, and the younger generation did not want to live like that. They wanted to go out to clubs, sit any way they wanted, carry their furniture around, didn't have to be those really heavy grandmothers, armchairs and stuff. And so the designers, this is a group of 3 people, Gatti, Paolini, Teodoro, designed this object which is just a bag filled with polyurethane bead. And it's very light. Now, you've probably seen it. I don't know if you've seen the original because it's been copied everywhere. IKEA makes an ugly version of that as well. But it really represents what it means to connect design with what the people feel. Like the society changes and design and objects reflect that change in society.
I think the other thing that's really super interesting and really important and what was interesting about Italy was the Italian leaders of the companies all came from families, they all had small companies, and they also understood this idea of poetics. So they weren't so interested in how many they were going to sell or who was going to buy it. What they were interested in is the qualities of the object, the beauty of the object, and the poetry. And without that partnership, a lot of these things wouldn't have happened, which frankly, was not happening elsewhere in the world. Maybe a little bit in Japan as it came out of World War II, and they were also seeking for this new language. But for sure, Italy was the center of this kind of innovation. And the designers and the companies were partners. As you see, Zanot has mentioned quite a few in this presentation because they were a small family-run operation, which they still are, and they still create groundbreaking, moving forward products.
And there is another thing.
They were so all the Italian manufacturers.
And there is also, we saw a couple of objects from the 50s and then the 60s. You have to imagine that Italy came out of World War II and everything was destroyed. But not only physically, not only the buildings were destroyed, the whole idea of society was destroyed. And so these manufacturers and designers, they were dreamers. They thought, how can we build a new society?
So now we see here is Up 5 chair from Gaetano Pesce from his Up collection, the end of 1960s, 1969. Unfortunately, Gaetano Pesce passed away 2-3 weeks ago. 84, he was 84. For Milan Design Week. In 1969, he designed this chair, which, if it craves curiosity, what kind of shape, what does it mean? It means it's like a bulbous shape and form of the feminine body, It is. Because Up 5 chair, Gaetano Pesce designed it while he was taking a shower. There's a behind it that he was taking a shower and his poop, when it squishes, it compresses, and when you release, it, back to its own form. Up 5 chair, the original idea was to have form. It was flat packed and it compresses when it arrives in a box, and then it takes an hour to take its form. But nowadays it's not like that because it was environmental friendly. It's not environmental friendly. But the poetic of this F5 chair is that yes, it does signify a form of a bulbous body of a feminine chair, like an ancient goddess. But it's not a feminist chair. Because the idea behind it, it means like the body of a woman, the ball, which is a ball chain, signifies women under the oppressor of men. But it's not a feminist chair, it's just the idea behind it. But you would never see it like that. For me, when I saw this F5 chair by Gaetano Pesce, I just saw a woman's body and its baby, like an umbilical cord. That was all. But when I studied behind it, what design poetic is, it had a total different meaning. And on this, right, it was his last piece, or last art, would you say, last year of 2023, during Milan Design Week for Bottega Veneta, called Come Stai.
Hundreds of color combinations. So again, what he's saying is, we believe in production, but we also believe in creating unique objects that people can attach to. So you can go through this and look at them and make the chair of your choice. And I think that's a fascinating idea. Yet it's a very rational, standard object. Again, to Sergio's point, this is where the magic begins.
And also in 1969, B&B making this product to come to life is amazing, right? Italian manufacturer.
This is a very interesting object. It's a kind of a blend, again, designed by Andrea Mazzi, and I believe this is 1985. And this piece is interesting because it's a mix of industrial production. You see this, the base of the chair is very rational, almost looks like an IKEA lactator. And then what he added to it was this incredibly humanistic, warm, natural wood. And it functions as a chair, it's super comfortable, but at the same time, it connects with you emotionally. It brings you to another place.
This object was designed by Stefano Giovannoni and Guido Venturini. At the time, they were a team and they were called King Kong, just because they referenced to the pop culture. What they did, they used a tray that had been already designed, so they did not design the tray. The only thing that they did is they designed this doll and they cut it out from the tray. And I would add that they didn't even design the doll, because the doll is what you do as a kid, like I mentioned before, when you fold the paper and you cut them and then you create these little paper objects. So the idea here is that a simple tray in your home can connect with everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, everyone will understand this object, because we remember childhood. So it's not an elitist object, it's not an object for a certain type of people. That's why I think it sold 20 billion copies.
94 by Alessi. I don't know if you know the brand Alessi from Italy. This is the most iconic piece from Alessi. And this is a corkscrew or bottle opener, wine opener called Anagi by Alessandro Mendini. So Mendini created this corkscrew thinking, they say, by Marilyn Monroe. Because it has a slender neck, smiling face, sleek dress, and a sleek arm. But Anagi is actually, this corkscrew is actually an homage to a real person called Anagini. And Anagini was actually Mendini's student. And after Mendini and Alessi discussed, they called it Anagi, homage to Anagini, because of her smiley face and a bowl cut, which is very iconic, I guess, well known. Because energy, has this kind of haircut, and very smiley. So they created this product in 1994, and it's still really iconic and well known, and anyone that knows LSE knows this piece.
And then one thing I want to add, which is what Sergio told me today at lunch, was that in Italy, it's very rare to celebrate the mechanics. What's more important is the experience of the user. And if you look at this object, the mechanics are like part of the beauty, but it's all hidden. And I think that, again, is about the poetics and the abilities to see past just solving the problem and always looking for something more, something extra.
Before I get to this, I just want to add, we saw a few Alessi products. There is a small anecdote. Alberto Alessi, who's the owner of the company, obviously it's a big company, they have a marketing department. Every year the marketing department analyzes hundreds of products, and then they decide this would work well, this will be a commercial success, this will not. Now, Alberto Alessi has the power to say every year to pick one object that was rejected by the marketing and say, okay, I understand you don't believe in this, I'm going to pick this anyway and we're going to put it in production. For the past 25 years, the best seller of the company has always been the object that he picked, and a few of those are actually done. And here we come to an object that I designed. Now, you probably know Italian food. You remove Italian food from Italians and we die, there's nothing else left. And we really care about the cuisine. We care about our dishes, the way they're presented, the way they're cooked. Everything in there represents so many different things. They're art pieces. I'm not a good cook, but I can eat. But I can tell that there is this idea that the dish or the pasta dish is a piece of art, and at least in most of Italy, on top of the dish when it's served, you grate a little bit of Parmigiano on top. That is like the last piece that you put. It's almost like the last touch of the artist, right? So when I was asked to design this grater, immediately I thought, okay, as an artist, as a painter, as a chef, that would be an artist, like a painter's palette, and so that's why we designed it that way. So it's not necessarily about the function of grating the Parmigiano in the most efficient way, in the most economical way, who cares? It's about what you're adding to